can hear you, but I can't hear Diane.
Oh, that's because I'm just being quiet.
Diane, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, I just am so pleased you went yesterday. It was such a wonderful service.
Actually, it really, really was, Suzanne. It was beautiful. It was an honor for Mary.
Diane, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Everybody can hear us now.
I'm so pleased you went yesterday. It was such a wonderful service. Actually, it really, really was, Suzanne. It was beautiful. It was an honor. I still think the nicest touch of the whole service was hearing the birds outside, who evidently got the invitation.
Let's start from the beginning, Diane, now that people are gathered around. I hope everybody's here. It's a couple of 3 minutes early, but I wanted to be sure we could get connected, and it seems everybody's hearing us loud and clear. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Suz and Miblue from Dunrovin Ranch, and on the phone I have with me Diane Hoffman, my dear friend Diane, who came to visit me this summer and who has been connected with Dunrovin, since the very beginning, and who went to New York and met Mary, and you and she were in a little film for me. Was that your first meeting, Diane?
Yes, it was, and we bonded right away. But, the funny thing is, when one of Mary's friends, her oldest friend, Mary Watts, pointed out at the ceremony that Mary had a true gift for friendship. And indeed she did. And the minute I met Mary, we had a very deep friendship. And it was over, believe it or not birds, but our Abyssinian cats.
That's great. That's great. Well, the echo should go away in a moment, I Love Grant, because I've turned off my computer, so there should be no echo. I'm going to do a little bit of a test here. Diane, will you say 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and please tell me, chatters, if you hear an echo or not. Just to say no echo, and then we'll continue with.
Yeah, I turned off my sound also.
Yeah. I just want to having any difficulty before we get going too much. Okay. Any echo? Sounded good. All right, I see Chloe down there. Well, I wanted to start by reading the poem that I had found by William Henry Davies about the kingfisher. And I am particularly enamored of the kingfisher because it was one of Mary's favorite birds. I do remember somebody, I don't know whether it was you, Diane, or Celia, who posted a photo of her Christmas tree from 2013. I do have it on the blog if people want to go there and see. But the fact that it occurs in Montana makes me think of it as Mary's bird. So I know that I shall always think of Mary when I see the kingfisher down at the Bitterroot River. So if people will bear with me, I'd like to read this poem. And it's not really about death, but in some ways I think it is, because Mary has gone off and is flown to that beautiful pond and is in the trees and with her bird. It was the rainbow gave thee birth, and left thee all her lovely hues. And as her mother's name was tears, so run in my blood to choose. For haunts the lonely pools and keep in companies with trees that weep. Go you, and with such glorious hues, live with proud peacocks in green parks, on lawns as smooth as shining glass. Let every feather show its marks. Go thee on boughs and clap thy wings before the windows of proud kings. Nay, lovely bird, thou art not vain. Thou hast no proud, ambitious mind. I also love a quiet place, that's green away from all mankind. A lonely pool and let a tree sigh with her bosom over me. I still hope that that is where Mary is now.
Oh, I think that's lovely, Suzanne.
Please, Diane, start from the beginning about Mary's service. Many of us were able to watch it, and I have to say I was just so thrilled that the service was live streamed. It meant a lot to all of us who watched.
Well, there were many people there. As I posted a little bit earlier, by my estimate, and I was sitting up at the front, so it is an estimate, there were probably between 80 and 90 people there, which for a memorial service is pretty amazing.
Oh, it's wonderful. We could see some of the crowd, in fact. At one point, the camera did show that most of the church was full.
Mm-hmm. It was. It really was. It's a beautiful church, I must say. I could feel Mary in there, bustling around, trying to talk to all of us.
Yeah.
But they were from so many different parts of her life. And of course, I really got a very interesting to have the pastor stand up and talk about the passages that he and Mary translate in Psalms. And he read the piece from Psalms, which was so beautiful. It was really, and it's in the program. I don't know if any of you have it there, but it was Psalms 84, 1 through 4. And he talked so much about being his theological soulmate. And I thought at that point, boy, with it was cats with me, birds with a lot of other people, theology with her. She had so many facets of her life that were apparent in this particular beautiful ceremony. From her interest in transitions and theology and birds and music and people, but mostly it was her Watts who moved me, who talked about her great gift for friendship. And she did indeed have a gift for friendship. Of course, what we all noticed, she was the first one to greet us when we would come into the room, and she was just absolutely amazing. And Mary Watts wrote a poem also after Mary passed away that she read, and I don't have a copy of it, but I thought it was extremely touching.
We did hear that. It was beautiful. It was. Yeah. It too was about a kingfisher, was it not?
It was either that or a sparrow. I can't remember.
Well, I was very, very moved by the Reverend and his talking about how she translated the meaning from God, not just the meaning of the words or the
intent of the
intent. Yes, and it made me know and love Mary even deeper, to understand that about her.
Yes.
It also makes me look at these little sparrows that frequent our nest and think we've all remarked, and I know that she has at times remarked that, yes, they're common, they're also beautiful.
Well, it's funny because I remember sending an email to her once, because she and I would, after we met in New York, we were in touch fairly frequently, not often, but, always when we had something to say to each other. And I had seen a Carolina wren on my bird feeder, which was very unusual because you don't usually see those, but it was migration season. So I sent a note out to her, and she said, "Oh, my warblers, I just love my warblers. You're so lucky to have this wren." And I thought to myself, I'm so lucky to have you, Mary, because I don't know one warbler from the next. They are, for me, the hardest thing in the world to ID. They really are. They don't stand still. They always look different. They bounce around. So I have never been good at warblers. But she said, "Oh, the Blackburnian warbler, that's my favorite." And I thought, I don't think I'm ever going to see one of those. But I said, maybe down in North Carolina, I might see a warbler like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't recognize it. So I said, you got to come with me.
Yeah. I recognize the song now. We certainly don't have them here, but after hearing the song that George Pepos did that nice little video of when he had been there in New York with both of you and played that song. And I think of it now, of course, when I think of Mary.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing is now that I have to say the music was wonderful. They really had some unbelievably beautiful music, but I think that the musical meditation call that was titled "I'm Going Up Yonder" by the women of the Rutgers Choir was absolutely. It was transforming. It was lovely, and especially heard in that church, it was just really quite something. So the whole ceremony was really quite lovely and quite interesting. But afterwards, of course, there was a huge together afterwards in the back of the church, and almost everybody came up to ask me about Dunrovin. They were just transfixed by the idea of Dunrovin.
It is unusual, isn't it?
Well, and not only that, as I started talking about it, I didn't. Oh, sorry, there's a moth flying around in here, and it came out of the bird seed, and it's making me crazy. I forgot to tell them it was in Montana.
Over every.
And so I had to tell everybody one by one, it's in Montana, it's in Montana. But interestingly, there were just as many people there who loved horses as birds.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, I'm here. There were just as many people who loved horses as birds.
Well, good. They should sign up. Love to have her neighbors, of course.
Yeah, but her neighbors were there, and they all had stories to tell about Mary, which is why we're here today. But they all started out with saying, when I first moved into the neighborhood, Mary came over and helped me. You know, they all started out with gifts of friendship.
And she was in that neighborhood for over 40 years, was she not, Diane? She was there a long time.
Yeah.
She was a staple of that neighborhood.
Indeed.
How far is the church from her home?
Well, she lived up on 86th or 84th. I can't remember which, and the church was on 72nd, so about 10 blocks.
About 10 blocks.
10 short blocks, not the long New York blocks, the short blocks.
Yeah. Wonderful. I thought I might read some of the notes that people left in memory of Mary on the site.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We received several, and I'd like to read. This one is from Nancy J., and I do believe Nancy J. is on right now. She says, I miss her dearly. She touched my heart. We were pen pals. When she passed, I sat in my yard and cried. My sparrow came right near me. I knew it was Mary's spirit. Love you and miss you already dearly, Mary. Nancy J. Here we have kids. I learned so much from Mary. She was an excellent teacher and very informed about birding. She was very patient with us when we would ask, what bird is that? Or what bird is making that call? She would answer us each time, knowing that we had asked the same question many times. There are no words to express my sadness at her leaving us. There are people all over the world who will miss Mary, from the eastern shores to the western shores of the U.S., Canadians and even some in Hungary. And we all chatted with Mary like she was just next door. Mary would post pictures of her neighborhood for us to see, as I had never seen New York. I will trade the times I spoke to Mary, as sometimes we would be the only ones in the early morning, as we were on the eastern shore and had a 2-hour time difference. My condolences to her family. She will be missed terribly. Here's one from Lynn. I think I Love has captured all that was so very true about our Mary. I would like to add how very much I miss her trips to her appointments. Her phone gave her the name of Renzo, and she would tell us of her views she was passing while on the cab or the car to her destination. We also chatted while she was sitting in the waiting room and then again on her way home. She treated us with some beautiful pictures of her views. She drove or walked past and shared her knowledge of the city's architecture that surrounded her. She even turned into the chat while waiting for her church service to start. How we loved you, dear Mary. You are so terribly missed. Here's one from Celia. Mary, my dear friend, I'm so happy she is in peace with her Lord. But dang it, I miss her. She knew all the horses, could tell Monty and Rocket apart, and the captain. Dang it, I miss her. Thank you so much, Suz and Dunrovin, for bringing us all together. What a wonderful, caring place this is. But dang it, I miss Mary. Mary, this is from D.A. Lady. Mary B. was some kind of lady, always the first one to say hello in the morning. She was the flower gal. When I would send her my contribution, I would always write a little note, and she would always tell me how neat that was. She enjoyed my notes. She always had a ready answer when someone asked what kind of bird that was in a picture, even if it was just a black or tail, or just a back or tail. Was looking forward to a winter birding game she was going to do. How that will be missed. God bless you, Mary B. This one's from Oriole. When I first started watching here at Dunrovin, Mary was one of the first persons to welcome me. She asked where I was from. I told her BC, Canada. She then told me she saw a vehicle on her street with BC license plates. She went up and talked to the fellow. We then, or I did, called him BC Ben. We then became cyber Dunrovin buddies. Mary certainly knew her birds. Very helpful to us all, which was really nice. Always had time for my questions. Remember once shortly after I arrived on chat, saw some birds right outside my window sitting on the fence. Took a pic and posted it, asked if anyone knew what they were, as I had never seen them before. Within about 30 seconds, Mary said they were California quail. Who would have thought California quail would be here on Vancouver Island, British Columbia? That is how I always appreciated Mary's expertise in the blue and the bird world. As I became more comfortable with chatting, I felt I could ask Mary anything as well as other people did. I've done Dunrovin very well. She did help me. As time went on, I passed up some woodland kingfisher pics from the safari cam I watched. Mary always liked seeing the pics. Kingfishers were her favorite birds. Hence her email, Addie, Kingfisher BTC. So I posted a pic of woodland kingfisher every day if one was shown. I think Mary enjoyed seeing them as well as the others from South Africa. She did not know them, obviously, as they are from South Africa, but she knew the North American birds. Today we on safari saw our first woodland kingfisher. They just arrived back from their migration. I immediately thought of Mary. Nice to sort of time with my new cyber friend. Miss you dearly. Hope you have your laptop or phone in the bird sanctuary in the sky. That's beautiful. What beautiful remembrances from all of you. I have to say, I hope I can get through all these without crying. This is from Kukui. There is a hole in my heart for Mary's absence in this world. She played too many roles here at Dunrovin Chat. She was greeted to everyone, multiple times a day if she was on. She made a point to say hello whether you were coming into the chat for the first time that day or checking back in after a while for being away for a spell. She was a compassionate friend. The slightest issue in a person's life, and Mary was there to check in to see how you were doing. She sent her handmade cards across the miles to check in on all of us. Her love of people was inspiring, and one that I personally look to emulate as I continue my life proudly in her memory. She was well-traveled and educated. Mary's life stories to me were like reading the very best book with a perfect cup of coffee. They were sometimes funny, sometimes educational, sometimes heartbreaking. But she told them all, as though they were all the things that made Mary who she was. Finally, Mary was a devoted spiritual woman and the most astounding birder. Her work at her church seemed to fill her heart and soul much in the same way birding did. Her attention to detail in terms of birding was amazing. I will forever remember the day. One of the best ways to distinguish the difference between a hairy and a downy woodpecker is to look at the size of the beak. I will miss those tips that she so freely gave about the birding world. On a more personal note, the day Mary passed, I had an unusual experience. and one that will forever fill my heart with Mary's love. I was out walking with my mom in the park when we came upon a doe curled up in the leaves on the ground. I stopped to take a picture for all the chat friends to see. The deer slowly got up. I stood there frozen, so as not to startle her. She approached me directly. She came within 5 feet of me and paused, stopped for a moment, and turned to walk away on the other side of the walking path. I was dumbfounded. I had never had a wild animal approach me so calmly. When Mom and I got home from our walk, it was then that I got a call that Mary had passed. I will forever be convinced that the doe was Mary coming to say goodbye. Love and blessings, Mary. Thank you for changing my life in the many ways you did. You will always be present with the sunrise at Dunrovin. So Sui sent me a photo of the deer, and I will post it with Mary's post somewhere down here so people can go there to see it. Thank you all for the lovely, lovely notes. We miss her dearly.
Yes, we do. She was an extraordinary and a very special person. And you just don't come across people like Mary very often in your life.
It was a very unique combination. That personal touch, that commitment to getting it right. I don't know if people remember, but I posted a picture of a caterpillar. And within minutes, she had an email back to me with the name of the caterpillar. I mean, I had all kinds of other people sending me stuff that was not correct. But she went to all the trouble within that 30 minutes to find out just the right one and had a picture that was identical to the caterpillar that I had posted. And as a scientist, that really struck me because that commitment to getting it right is, and I loved the way she did that with all of her birding and all of her observations, and she was a very keen observer.
Yes, she was. I like Celia saying, yes, she had a bug book, too.
That she did, yep.
Well, I often think of her fantastic library when I visited her. You know, her whole front room was just full of bookshelves. It was just one huge big library. And it wasn't just bird books. She only half of the library was bird books. So, yeah, she had quite a few reference books and beautiful books of things she just loved.
It was clear she was well read. And I will so miss her during the book club. I so enjoyed her comments and she was so attentive to the book and brought out aspects of the books I would not have thought of. It was just so fun having her voice in that.
And she was always the voice of good reason, too. I mean, the points she made would think, why didn't I think of that?
Yes, indeed.
And thank you for mentioning it, Mary. Oh, yes, thank you, Celia. That was only one. The other side of the house was just the same. Celia just posted a picture of her case.
Didn't she? Yes, look at that. Look at that. Just stop.
But the whole other side of the wall was there. And she loved those bookcases because her cat used to jump to the very top of the bookcase. She was very proud of that. Yeah, there you go. It was all bookcases. Now, do you see up at the top right of that bookcase by the table? That's where her cat used to sit. That was the cat seat.
That's great. You got to meet Mary's niece and her sister-in-law, did you not?
I met her niece, Amanda.
And I have greatly enjoyed corresponding with Amanda. It seemed like they had a very good, close relationship.
Yes, Amanda was very touched. She did a lovely reading at the end also. But she was quite overwhelmed, but she was lovely. There were a lot of family there, none of whom I knew or recognized, and the gentleman who took the remains, I do not know who that was, and nobody did. They kept looking at me like I should know who he was, and I had no idea. Did she have a brother?
Well, I think she did have a brother. She mentioned the brother, but she must have had two because she had a sister-in-law too. I don't know. Maybe Kukui knows.
I wondered if it was her brother because he was older. He was crying. I mean, he was quite taken by, and he was the one who picked up the box of her remains and took it for the interment ceremony at the end, which I believe was off camera. Oh my goodness gracious. Celia, where are you getting these pictures?
That's Celia.
That's Celia, right. Ah, her brother Rusty. Thank you. Thank you, Kukui. Mandy's father. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't see him until the end. And he was, he just looked like he would be Mary's brother, but I didn't know who it was that took the ashes. Thank you. Anyway, now would be a time if anybody had comments that weren't read to talk about them.
Yes. Please add anything you would like to the chat.
Because we're all watching the chat as well as listening on the phone. But I was surprised to see Rusty, and he was, by the way, he was very handsome and very short. I could, in some way, see the two of them walking around together, smiling and laughing at each other. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, thank you, Kikui. That reminds me. The picture that Kikui just put up on the public chat of Mary with her rooster.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, or Mary with a chicken. I don't know whether it was a chicken or a rooster. But Mandy, I believe, had made a very nice poster board of pictures of young Mary. Young Mary is a horsewoman. Young Mary was a rooster. That was one of the pictures that was up there. That's what just reminded me. And it was she was a very lovely girl in college. What a pretty girl she was. Celia, why was she scared to death of that chicken? Oh, Kikui, I should have. I just failed you. Kikui asked me if I had taken a picture of the board, and I should have, but I didn't. I had my cell phone there. I could have done that.
Well, you were engaged in it. You know, sometimes when you're engaged in things, you don't think to do these things. And I probably would not have thought to do it either, Diane. You were in the moment.
Well, but Celia has a picture of it. Now, how did Celia have this picture?
Well, she gets it because the camera from the live stream. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, it was a very, very large montage of all kinds of pictures of Mary. Camera anywhere I look, so I forgot about it.
Oh, it was wonderful, Diane. It was clear, as you could hear the music. It was just, I was so thrilled that it came through so well. And people had one window open with that, and we checked. It was beautiful.
Well, if you guys heard the birds, it was a very good feed.
Yes, it was a good feed.
Well, it's funny because afterwards, when we were all standing around talking to each other, finally somebody said, "Did you hear birds?" I said, "I sure did." And I wondered if they put that on a feed, through the, just to have bird sounds because you like birds, or if there were birds out there. They said, "No, those are real birds," and everybody heard the birds outside the church. I like to think that they came to say goodbye to Mary, too. And the music sounded as lovely as it is. It really was. Let me put it this way. I think Mary would have been quite pleased. The only thing that would have pleased Mary more was being alive, but otherwise, this is a perfect service for her.
And, it's important to those of us left behind that have that perfect service, don't you think? I mean, sometimes I am not the first person to recognize the importance of traditions and the importance of almost saying goodbye, but I sure felt it yesterday.
Yes, I did too. I think that there were a lot of things that were really important in this service that oftentimes I miss in memorial services. One is that everybody there was very close to her, including the pastor of the church. So often I walk in and they start the memorial service by saying, "Well, I didn't know so-and-so, but," and it just goes downhill from there. But everybody there knew her in one way or another and admired her. And I thought that's what made it such a difference to this particular service.
I agree. It was clear that the pastor was moved, and it was clear that her friendship was an important part of his life in that church.
Yes. His theological soulmate.
Yeah.
That just made me laugh. I looked up and I said, "Mary, what have you been doing?" She answered me. She said, "Just translating, Diane."
Well, I'd like to bring us to a close. If anybody would like to say something in parting, I just want to reiterate my own personal sense of loss. Mary B. was with me from the beginning, like you, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
She was a big supporter, a lovely woman. I had the great occasion to correspond with her on various occasions. And I so appreciated everything that she gave to us and to me. And there's going to be a big hole at Dunrovin without her.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It's a big hole in each life without her.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we have all been made better by Mary.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Our knowing Mary and experiencing Mary and being with Mary have enriched each of our lives. And unfortunately, wherever there is a great amount of love, there is also a great amount of grief at the loss of that particular, that greatness.
Yes, she leaves a big hole because she played a big role.
Exactly.
Well, we love you, Mary. We hope that you are with your God and that you are looking down and knowing that we will miss you and that every bird we see carries a little bit of you to us with it. Goodbye, everyone. I appreciate everyone participating. Thank you so much, Diane, for participating in person and for reading our condolences to the family. Thank you all for joining me here. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am for what a community we have formed around this crazy little osprey nest.
And that is due to you, Suzanne. We thank you for bringing Mary to us.
Well, that technology did that. It's the community that keeps us all together.
Well, I want to give you a special thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much, Diane. And I appreciate all of you. And I just wanted to say that I had no idea when I got started this road that I would be doing such a thing on the Internet. It amazes me that I could have come to love somebody so much without ever having looked in their eyes, without ever having heard their voice except over a telephone or over a Skype or Google. But I did love Mary, and I love all of you in the same way, and I greatly appreciate your presence in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And good night to all you guys.
Good night to everyone. I'm going to go and walk over to the office and turn everything off. But I shall be back on the chat as soon as I'm done with that. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.